Welcome, Comm students. As you prepare your first speech, you may begin developing some nervousness about delivering your talk. Now, I want you to know that you are not alone. Even professionals who know their subject well can get nervous before giving a presentation. Now, you can reduce your speech anxiety by understanding it and learning approaches to cope with it. So today we are going to go over the different types of anxiety that can affect you as you're preparing for a presentation. Now, you may be familiar with this expression, I have butterflies in my stomach. And that's an expression that is commonly used when you're feeling nervous before a presentation. One public speaking text had said, "Get those butterflies to fly in formation." What the heck does that mean? That means take your nervous energy and use it to move your speech along rather than allowing it to handicap you. Now, you can't do that unless you are aware of what's causing the anxiety and how to prepare for it. So let's look over those different types of anxiety. The first type of anxiety is pre-preparation anxiety. This is the type of anxiety that you would have right before you even start a presentation. Let's say that you were assigned a speech for class, you were asked to give a presentation at work, or you were given a call to come in for a job interview. Even before you prepare the presentation for class, the speech for work, or went over common job interview questions, before you even start, you can feel the anxiety coming on. This is a normal part of public speaking. You're anticipating what is going to happen at that job interview, what's going to happen when you stand in front of your coworkers or your classmates. And so you start to feel a little bit nervous, pre-preparation anxiety. Another type of anxiety that's very common is preparation anxiety. Now, this is where you actually sit down to write out your speech outline. This is where you sit down and start putting together your presentation for work. This is when you are working on the job interview questions that you think they're going to ask. Perhaps you're practicing with someone and they're asking you those common questions and you're answering them to the best of your ability. While you're sitting there, while you're putting together your outline, while you're putting together your slides, while you're answering those questions, you can feel your anxiety start to increase. As is the case with pre-preparation anxiety, don't make yourself feel overwhelmed. Don't feel like I'm having this anxiety, which means I'm going to have a horrible presentation or job interview. Remember that this is a natural part of public speaking. Now, one of the most common types of anxiety is pre-performance anxiety. This is where you are sitting in your class waiting to be called up to give your presentation. Or you're sitting in the meeting at work waiting for your supervisor to tell you to stand in front of your colleagues and give your presentation. You're sitting outside in the lobby perhaps, waiting for them to call you in to the job interview. And while you're waiting, you can feel your anxiety increase, anticipating the moment when you have to sit in that job interview or give that presentation at work or at class. This is pre-performance anxiety. The fourth type of anxiety is the most common of all five. And this is performance anxiety. That's it. You're in the hot seat. You're sitting right there in the job interview. All eyes are on you. And now you have to present yourself as the best candidate for the job. You have performance anxiety where you can feel yourself tensing up as you start to answer questions and give information about yourself. Or you're standing in front of that classroom, you can see all of your fellow students staring at you and the instructor in the back getting ready to evaluate you. You're standing in front of that room with your colleagues and your supervisors in there, and you don't want to appear incompetent, and you want to give a good performance and show that you are a professional, but you can feel that anxiety welling up on you. That's performance anxiety. It's got to be over at this point. After all, I had anxiety before I started. I had anxiety When I prepared, I had anxiety right before my job interview or my presentation, and then I had anxiety when I gave my presentation. It must be over at this point because the job interview's over. The presentation at work is over. The speech in class is over. My anxiety is over. Nope, your anxiety lives on. I like to tell my students it's like one of those horror movies you watch where the monster never dies and they make 15 of the movies. They shoot the monster. The monster's alive for another movie. They use a flamethrower on the monster. The monster's alive for another movie. They drop a nuke on the monster. The monster is alive for another movie. I don't know how many Saw movies they made or A Nightmare on Elm Street, but that's your anxiety. It lives on. And you're saying, how in the world could my anxiety live on after the presentation is over? It lives on in what is known as post-performance anxiety. This is where you start to replay in your mind all the things that you did during the presentation or the job interview. And you start to think about how you fumbled over one of the questions they asked you, or you lost your place for 15 or 20 seconds during your presentation in class. And it makes you feel uncomfortable to think of how you had slipped up at one point in the presentation, and the anxiety starts to increase in you. Now, this is not healthy because in your mind you can reinforce the idea that public speaking is bad, that I'm not good at it, and I just want to avoid it at all costs. Again, I want to tell you that every one of these types of anxiety are normal. You may have one of them, you may have some of them, or you may have hit the lottery and had all of them. It is normal to have that. And I do also want to tell you that depending on the type of presentation you're giving, you may feel very comfortable in one situation. For example, I feel very comfortable giving speeches and presentations in front of my students, but there could be other occasions where you don't feel as comfortable. Know that that's the nature of public speaking. And when you're feeling those different types of anxiety, remember that the best thing to do is to cope with them and to find a way to get those butterflies to fly in formation. So you can see in the link below, I've got several other videos practicing your speech and the unknowns of public speaking anxiety and approaches to it that can help you to get those butterflies to fly in formation.